You're tuning in to Past Our Prime,
a show powered by Squad Locker.
Here are your hosts, retired Astros minor league star Tip Fairchild and former Patriots All-Pro center Dan Copen.
Did you see Mortal Kombat?
Oh, you mentioned, did you see it?
Holy shit, is that cool?
Did you see that in the theaters?
No, we just streamed it, rented it.
Because you were in New Hampshire. I was in New Hampshire this weekend.
All right, here we go. Episode 44.
Yeah.
Past Our Prime. Tip, Max, Dan. We're back for another edition.
Good guest.
We have,
Good guest.
we have Bert Breer from Monday Morning Quarterback, Sports Illustrated. I mean, this is a guy who actually knows his shit.
Well, like he's not, when he's talking about teams and people, it's not like he's like, well, I talked to him yesterday.
Yes.
Talking about like.
Yeah, and if you
know,
Monday Morning
Lamar
Quarterback
Jackson
is a huge column for Sports Illustrated. It was started by Peter King. Bert took it over. I had crossed paths with Bert over the years when he was a beat writer, and then we did some pre and post games together. Good guy, knows his shit. Mm-hmm. One of the things he said, and we're going to get into the Urban Meyer and the Gruden thing with him, so we don't have to bother with that.
Cover all good football stuff with him.
Mm-hmm. One of the things he said in our conversation was kickers is kind of like equal to golfers. When the
I know exactly where you're going.
When the swing is bad, it just goes off the rails for a while, and it's hard to get it back. So where I'm going with this tip is we played Friday.
We did.
We played Friday, and we were on opposite teams.
Our carts too were number 12 and number 16.
Randomly. No.
Well, I grabbed number 12.
One of them, he went back into the the clubhouse and into the garage.
I saw 12 sitting there. I said, I want 12.
And he got 12.
Yeah.
And then was it after the round?
I was like, when we were on the range, you were like, I've got number 16.
I was like, yeah, I'm just going to check. You were like, oh, I got 12. And I was like, I'm just going to check which card I got. It was 16, miraculously. Your new favorite player, Matt Castle.
We got the jersey there. Also,
you have two jerseys.
I've got the Chiefs jersey right here. I might wear that one of these days. So, yeah, my new guy. Wish he was still playing.
I wish he was still doing his the reading of the lips. So if
you're not following
his Instagram,
him, you need to follow it because it's one of the funnier things. I know that's a thing, right? Like with a read the lips, like
the one he did
stuff.
Was fantastic.
He does a couple. He needs a new one this week. Can't wait to see what it's going to be.
All right, but so we play golf.
Yeah.
I am partnered up with Jenkins.
Yep.
Who we had on
guest.
the show, and we're going to set up as a paddleball with him.
Yes.
Just to
paddleball,
bring it full circle. You were teamed up with Paul.
Yes. Peloton rider Paul,
our college basketball expert.
That's right.
So we were going against, and I think you lost a lot. I haven't
paid you yet. I can still pay
true,
you. Maybe we'll do it live on air.
You did not pay me.
It was. Do you want to make fun of me, or do you want me to go down the path?
I want to make fun of you.
Okay, go.
Just because
2 club throws.
Yeah, I don't see that out of you enough. And the shit talking was at an all-time high from the first tee.
Were you nervous?
No, I wasn't.
Did you like that out of me? Did you like me to get a little angry? I don't play like that normally. I shot an 86 just for the people that are on the board.
He absolutely shot like shit. He could not hit a shot. Everything. I mean, you were going right the whole day.
Not visualizing.
Which is very rare for me, too.
Yeah, not visualizing. He wasn't visualizing.
I was trying to visualize, and you know what I figured out? I figured something out 2 days after that. Literally, like, sitting, like, in the room, like, no club, just, like, practicing. And I was like, I wasn't thinking about getting my right forearm underneath. And then I think I'm back. But it was not pretty, though.
No, you were, and I think it was on number 12.
11.
Was it
down
on 11?
The hill. Double club throw.
It was 11.
11.
And I haven't seen a club throw out of him. Yeah. But when you're on the opposite team and you're absolutely just stomping on them,
they were killing us.
And he hits a shot. I think you hit 2 shitty shots in a row, and then he hit another one, and all of a sudden you're about 30 yards down the field. It's his whatever club he was at. It was like,
I was 210 out. Normally I'd stick that thing like no problem.
This is just a great day. Not only are we winning, we're having fun talking shit a little bit, and now he is just absolutely pissed.
As mad as I've been on the golf course.
Damage assessment on the club?
Oh no, I don't even care. There was a couple times where I was like, I'm breaking this club. I don't care. And I didn't do it because my calmness like prevailed. But I will say that I was frustrated after that round to the point of like didn't clean my clubs, could care less what my clubs are, didn't unpack my bag, don't know where anything is right now, don't care where my golf stuff is right now. It could be at the course. I don't know. That's rare for me. Very rare.
I haven't seen it. That was. You're usually pretty consistent, and you'll hit a bad shot here and there, but you'll get it on track. Your first 12 holes.
Oh,
I don't think you parred until 14.
I think I was 9 over through 9.
Yeah. That's my score.
What was his whoop numbers that morning?
I don't know.
Did you not have good recovery?
No, I didn't. I lost my charger, so my charger should be in my house right now. Actually, my new one, and I broke 2 chargers with whoop so far. I don't know why.
I don't know. They're not waterproof, so
that could be some of the reason.
That is just
it was a very tough. I did write down 2 things. Tips golf was one of them, and that
you should also say, hey, Venmo Dan $45.
$45. We'll do it live on air for you. But yeah, there was a $45 loss. That one hurt, awesome. But it was a beautiful day. We're gonna do it again soon, hopefully. And then it was you had how were the clubs? You play well out there?
I played well. You know what? I was hitting some good shots.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't throwing clubs.
You weren't.
I wasn't throwing clubs.
Okay, good.
We're still.
Your game's coming around.
Still haven't. Still haven't played from the summer. It's getting back. Hopefully.
Yeah.
But
I felt bad for Paul.
I don't care.
Paul
I honestly, I could have shot 100, and we could have lost.
You could
the whole thing. But the fact that you were throwing clubs.
I know,
and it wasn't crowded. You don't usually do it, so it's not that big of a deal. You weren't angry at anybody else.
I launched one when nobody was looking, and then I did a 2-hand over the head tomahawk. When I hit when I was everything felt right, and I just absolutely was one of the worst shots I've hit, and that was it for me.
Yeah, if Paul didn't make putts,
it would have hurt.
You guys would have been
expensive,
slaughtered. But
so I'm back with Paul though. I want to be back with him. He knows that I'm a gamer.
Just would like Paul to know, because he's probably listening. Mm-hmm. He did 3-putt the first hole and lose it.
He did.
So there are 3-putts out there.
Yeah, there are.
He forgets about those, and he's like, "Oh, I can make everything. I'm automatic," which isn't true.
I was a content machine this weekend though, with the Red Sox, the baseball. I'm doing this thing where I just video the screen and talk.
It's a calm voiceover.
By the way, lots of people look at it. I don't know if you've noticed that, Max. There's lots and lots of views on these, tons. So I'm thinking this might be my thing. Is it the content that I'm putting out? Is it the voice?
Probably a mixture of both. That's
I was talking about the oven mitt.
I saw the one where I'm going to switch up spots.
I switched up spots last night.
We didn't get a post game though. I was kind of upset this morning.
I don't do one to close the night. I just pass out. So the Red Sox, though, they're on to the LCS. We have to go to a game.
Do we?
Come on.
Do we really?
Can we go to a game?
I don't have tickets.
No, I'll get the tickets. But can we go to a game?
No, it's possible.
All right. I want to go up because the electric atmosphere up there, it feels like it's 2004 again.
Is it that good?
Yes. It's loud. It's booming.
I thought that. Yes, I hope they win. I really do. And I had
you got the Sox out.
Actually, Paul went to the Yankee game.
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
The experience, the energy in the stadium, phenomenal. So it would be kind of cool to see.
All right, so we're gonna have to get up there for that. I love it when the Red Sox are in it. It makes it fun. It's just like when the Patriots are in it. It makes it real fun up here. Not a ton of people know every player on this team.
Baseball players tighten up in the playoffs. Do they tighten up?
Oh yeah, it's tight.
Is it guys they can feel it?
Definitely. You can see it a lot with pitchers.
Even with a 7-game series, right? They still tighten up. I know pitchers are in control and all this stuff, but let's just say a regular position player.
Yeah, Lau from Tampa Bay, he went 0 for 19 in the Red Sox series.
Okay, that's not a good.
And he hit 330 this year. Okay. He's a good player, right? Yeah. So there's that goes on. There's pitchers that get tight. I mean, Sale went 1 inning.
Yeah.
Right? It's
but Sale's not all the way back from his elbow. Correct?
No, but I think that he's going to be nasty the rest of these series. This is where somebody goes, okay, this is it for me. I'm on. And maybe not it for him. He's got some time left, but it's they'll risk it all to go try to win a World Series. Nathan Eovaldi, he wanted to pitch yesterday, and he just came off throwing 85 pitches. Yeah. He's normally, I want to relax for 4 days minimum.
No.
He's give me the ball again. I love that shit.
So he'll be going game 1? Who would they play? White
Yeah, well,
Sox
they
or
can. No, the White Sox and Astros are playing right now. Actually,
okay.
so we should go grab some wings.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
We won't date ourselves.
We won't date
White
ourselves.
Sox,
They're playing now.
So it'll be White Sox
or
versus
White Sox or Astros.
Oh, Cora versus Astros.
Yeah, I
and their
know.
cheating days.
That'd be great.
Ooh, that'd be
great.
good.
It'd be a little easier to get tickets too, but we could go to that. That would be fun. Football. We talked tons of football with Breer coming up.
Yeah,
we won't ruin any of that with us talking about it because
yeah,
we covered the hits. We covered
Let's just go to Breer. Unfortunately for the Pats, the Bills are really good.
But Mac Jones, comeback kid.
That was a good win.
We didn't cover Mac Jones at all. He didn't cover anything Patriots.
We don't. I mean, yeah.
Or Brady.
We're branching out.
He looked good.
Yeah, 5 touchdowns.
Jeez.
Yeah, he looked okay.
I'd pick him next 10 years. You'll hear this in the interview. You got to pick one quarterback for the next 10 years. I still might pick Brady.
I know you will. All right, let's get to Bert right now, and we'll see you. Now we got Bert Breer, who I've known for a long time. We've done some pre- and post games through NBC Sports Boston. He is the lead writer, the lead guy, the guy at Monday Morning Quarterback right now in Sports Illustrated. So he is the perfect guy to have on this week's show.
Yeah.
NFL, we're all about NFL, obviously. Boston guy, Red Sox too. I'm assuming Red Sox fan?
Yeah.
Or you don't really care about baseball, do you?
It's hard, dude. Like following baseball feels like a job now. I mean, especially when you have kids, it's like just like a lot of work. 162 games is a lot. And I used to love following it when I was younger, but it's just like you only have so much time, and it's like that's what's perfect about the NFL. It's like and obviously it's my job, so it's different. But even friends of mine, it's like the NFL is not asking that much of you. Baseball is asking a lot of you. You know what I mean?
Every night.
It's just
every night with your team.
Yeah.
The amount of tweets you have to put out if you got to do 162 games, that would ramp up the numbers.
It's a lot of work. So yeah, no, I watched last night. I had it on a second screen with the Ravens game, of course, and but yeah, I mean, I follow it, but not anywhere close to I used to.
Yeah, so you're kind of like me. You're a Red Sox fan, but maybe not baseball.
Well, did you watch a game last night?
I didn't watch it last night.
See, how do you not watch last night? Last night you needed to watch.
I don't even know what we were doing.
It would have been Dan's third game of the year, by the way. So
it would have been my second
Red Sox game.
Red
third overall.
I don't know some of the players anymore. So it's every time I go on on the Sports Hub, I just gotta hope that there isn't going to be a caller who's going to pop in with a Red Sox question.
Oh, there's no chance during the football season. It's straight football.
Yeah,
no chance on that. But let's start close to your home. You went to Ohio State, and probably a big Urban Meyer fan. What the hell? I mean, these are some of these things, especially last week with Urban Meyer, where Belichick would come in after you get a few days off or after you get a bye week, whatever the case, a weekend. Here's what we're not looking for, and this would be Exhibit A on
right
now. But now we're talking about
news, right?
But now we're talking about the head coach doing this. What the hell was going on there, Bert?
I mean, it's amazing to me because, I mean, and Dan, you probably would be good to talk about this part of it too. I can't think of another example of a head coach not going home with his team,
right?
Especially after
that was the first thing that Dan said.
Yeah.
Actually, he said, "How do you not fly home with your team on that?" That was the first thing you said about it,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, the only time I can remember it, and this is from way before I was covering. I was in high school, and this happened was when Parcells did it when he was going to the Jets, after the Super Bowl in '96, and I just. So that was the first thing that was sort of whoa, wait a second, why wasn't he on the plane home when everybody else was obsessing over the video? It's how is he not on the plane home? Yeah. On top of that,
the video is bad enough for the whole family situation, right? Let's take that out of it. We know that.
The video is the video. Look, there are a lot of people in the NFL who live in glass houses on that sort of thing. So I think there's a reason why there were a lot of people keeping their mouths shut in the aftermath. But I mean, to me, and I've always felt this way, about pro athletes and having covered pro athletes, is that the one thing that you guys all have, Dan, is like you guys all have like an incredible BS meter. I don't know if I can swear here, but you guys can sniff out bullshit like no one else. And so like I think the one thing that a coach can't do is BS his players. The one thing a coach can't do is present himself as something he's not. And the one thing a coach really can't do is when something goes wrong for him, he can't lie about it. And that was the thing that sort of, I wondered a little bit about is like, so a lot of times these coaches, when they're in college, put themselves on a moral high ground because they need to convince parents to send them their 18-year-olds. Well, in the NFL, that stuff doesn't matter.
Right.
It's more like how genuine are you and are you real? And so like if he put himself on a moral high ground and that video comes out, obviously that chips away at his credibility. And then the other thing was, his explanation was sort of like, well, like it was these 20-year-old girls that came over and were trying to convince me to do this or that. It's like, I don't know how believable that is. You know what I mean? Like, and so like, it just sort of like adds up and do you have a credibility issue in the locker room? In fact, I think like the guys would have respected it more if he had just got up there and said, listen, guys, I went out to blow off some steam. I had too much to drink. I acted like an a-hole. That's it. Like,
I think the guys would have forgot about that by stretch the next day, probably, if that was the case. They would have been over it.
I think it would have gotten through it faster. And so there's a lot wrong. I mean, and the judgment too. Like to speak into what you're talking about, Dan, it's like the one thing you hear is like when there's like a long weekend or bye week, the one thing I had always heard players say, their coaches said is, don't go and embarrass me. Don't go and do something stupid. Don't put the team in a weird position. Like have fun, but like, make good decisions when you're out there. It's like, what is he doing? Like if there's one place in America where that guy is not going to be able to go into a bar without being recognized, where is it?
Yeah, it might be there.
Columbus, Ohio.
Right. It might be there.
Right. So like you add all of this up and it's just like, what are you doing? So, I think it was an enormous lapse in judgment. And I think it has to do with so much more than just the video. Cause again, like I do think that there's enough people in the NFL like that wouldn't want the precedent set of just a video alone causing a problem for Urban Meyer. And I don't think it was the video. I think it's a credibility issue. And, and I think also the idea that he's not on the flight home is a problem too. And, you'd hope that maybe like he'd take some lessons from having gone through what he went through over the last week or so.
Does he just want out of the situation? I mean, that
4 or 5 games in.
That's what it feels like. It feels like, hey, USC's job is going to be open probably, and that's where I'll go next year, right? It's almost like he wants to be out of this situation.
Yeah, so I had an interesting conversation with him just before the season, and I actually asked him. I said, like, did you think you were done? And with what you've accomplished, why not just stay out? And, he said that like there was that competitive thing still with him, that he still needed that outlet. Like he still wanted that outlet, like that the competition gave him. And he still wanted to coach. But he told me, and this was very specific, I didn't want to go to college because I didn't want to go back to college because I didn't want to recruit. Yeah. And I didn't want to be like 24/7, texting with 16 and 17-year-olds and trying to convince their parents to send them here and all that different stuff. Like he didn't want to do all of that. And I believe that because like, that's a pretty common thing you hear from NFL coaches is like, well, would you go back to college to do this or go back to college to do that? And I mean, like, honestly, like the most common thing you hear from those guys is I don't want to go back because I don't want to recruit because it monopolizes. It's an all consuming thing that, you're kind of tethered to for your whole life. So I do believe that he doesn't necessarily, the idea of going back to college may not appeal to him the way some people think it appeals to him. I'm not sure like his pride would have let him walk away at this point. If he gets fired, that's one thing. But do I think he'd walk away, 0-5? It's just harder for me to see that knowing who he is.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, with the coaching's tough in general, especially during the season, the hours and the amount of work that you put into that, not seeing your family the whole time. Mike Vrabel, was an assistant under Meyer at Ohio State. Then he had, a bunch of us thought he would be the next head coach at Ohio State. Played there, loved Ohio State, went right back after he retired, and seemed like he was on the fast track all the way up to the head job there. When he took the D coordinator job for Houston, I mean, you echoed it perfectly. He's like, I don't want to do the recruiting anymore, because now that time that I'm spending in the off season with my family, I've got to go on trips. And I've got to recruit those 18-year-old kids. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where you sort of it's easier to coach in the NFL or professional sports that way.
Right. Well, what they always say, Cope, is like they always say, like, the NFL is a lot of work, but at least when I'm off, I'm off. Right. Right. Like, at least when I'm off, like, at least, like, like if I can get home at Friday on a Friday, but of a game weekend, and I go home at like 2:00 on a Friday, and I can go like maybe play 9 holes of golf and then go home and have dinner with my family and go to my kid's high school football game. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, and if you're a college coach, like, people don't realize that if you're a college coach, like, you maybe have to spend that time out recruiting some kid, or you could be at your kid's event and then you get pulled away because, like, this recruit wants to talk to you or that recruit wants to talk to you. You have to deal with that. So it's like, I think it's the lifestyle thing. Right. And again, like, so many coaches have brought that up to me, is like, they just don't want to live the lifestyle of a college coach anymore.
Yeah, not to mention, it's got to be different with all the likeness and the NIL and all that stuff. Like, it must. Oh,
right now,
makes recruiting
it's got to be different now.
So much different. Right?
You know what's fascinating about that, guys? Though, it was actually Brady Quinn who told me this. Like, he worked with Urban on Fox the last couple of years. And he talked to Urban about, like, the idea of all of that, right? And I thought what was really interesting was he said to Brady, basically, like, the one thing that I think is problematic about NIL for college coaches is that, like, do I think they should get paid? Yeah, like, they should probably get paid based on the money that's coming into college football. The problem is, in the NFL, you're getting paid based on how good you are. Like with NIL, it's not going to be based on that. It's based on, like, how many Instagram followers you have. I mean, like, look at some of the guys who did the big deals in college now. It's like Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma, like, may not even be starting anymore. Right. And he's done better than anybody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like, Johnny Manziel back in the day was a great college player, of course, but he would have killed it. Why? Because he had a massive following, Mm-hmm. And so, like,
I thought he did kill it too. Didn't he kill it anyway?
He probably did it.
Yeah, come on, Bert. What are we talking about?
That money is just being brought out of the shadows now, I guess, right?
Yeah, one of the bigger deals in college is the female gymnast from LSU. I think she's making the most money out of anybody, and it's due to the Instagram following side. I can't remember her name, but I
think there's a lacrosse player at Boston College too that's doing really well because like, and it's not like she has, like, the most massive audience, but it's like, if you're an advertiser, like, say you're, I don't know, like, you're Warrior and you're making lacrosse sticks and you're making lacrosse. Well, if you want to reach, like, a female lacrosse player audience, right, like, every one of her Instagram followers is in that market, right? Like, so like, people like that can make money off of it too.
No, that makes sense. Well, good job, Bert. I like that. What about Gruden now? I mean, that's obviously
this is like the coach's corner is what we have today.
This is the story happened this week. I mean, you sign a 10-year, $100 million deal to come back and be the Raiders head coach. Mm-hmm. You're obviously the guy to turn this thing around, and now this guy's reputation and career is basically probably tarnished, right?
Yeah, I don't know how you come back from this.
I mean, Keyshawn Johnson came out and said, I saw him as he was back then as a fraud. He's just one of these go-getter guys.
It's a credibility thing again. Like, and I think when your credibility is damaged, like, that's, like, the worst thing that can happen to you as a coach. Because then you have a chance, like, it really chips away at your ability to kind of connect with guys and get guys to follow you. And I think those things where, what he said, the stuff that came out on Friday was really bad. I think what made it worse was, like, when he tried to explain it away. And, like, his initial reaction was, well, I didn't mean it that way. And nothing like that would ever come out of my mouth. And, like all this stuff about, like, how, like, it was sort of like I'm trapped in a situation where I said something. And then 2 days later, we've got, like, what he said on what came out on Friday times 10. Mm-hmm. And it just turned him into a liar. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know how he comes back from this. And the other interesting thing about it is this was part of like the investigation into Washington.
Is that what it was? So
Yeah,
they were going into, it's 2011, right? The investigation was into Washington, correct?
It was into the workplace. So it was into the workplace stuff in Washington.
Yep.
And the reason it was part of that was because Bruce Allen,
Yes.
I think in 11 was the GM, wound up becoming the team president, but like all of these correspondents were with Bruce Allen.
Okay.
And so, it's the whole thing's fascinating because it kind of like, and I wrote a column on this today that, it kind of like takes you back to the old, what Tex Schramm said to Gene Upshaw. And this was in 1987 during the player strike. And Tex Schramm actually said in the middle of a meeting, Gene, you don't understand. We're the ranchers and you're the cattle, and we can always get more cattle. And so you look at this situation, right? Like this situation, like this was an investigation into the workplace culture in Washington that was fostered by Dan Snyder.
Who's got full control?
Who's
got full control of the team now, by the way?
Right. Who we like, and if you look at it, like that investigation, what specifics have we heard about Dan Snyder?
No,
right.
That's why. Like, how does this come out so fast?
We haven't heard anything.
Right.
Like, who's the league protecting? Right.
Right.
And how is it that of like 650,000 emails, only emails specific to John Gruden are getting leaked now?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and look, like I understand there's a part of it here that's like, there's a part of it here that where you're definitely like, okay, like, well, if the league was going through all these emails and it figured that like the Gruden emails might get out, then maybe they want to control it and say, okay, we're going to put those out there. But you can't tell me, like, based on what we know about what was going on in Washington, 650,000 emails and only the John Gruden emails were the ones that had stuff like that in it.
Right.
Like no one buys that, And so like, that's what's interesting about this one to me is like, what happened with John Gruden, I like the conclusion of it's whatever, like that is what it is. Like, and absolutely the Raiders could not go forward with him as their coach. But like in the grand scheme of things, like how come we still haven't heard more on the other end of this? How come we haven't heard more about what's happened with Daniel Snyder? Like, how come the result of this investigation, how come it's turning up stuff on somebody who was just sort of on the fringe of it, like,
wasn't even in the league.
How come it's,
this feels like
he wasn't even in the league, and to your point, what was Bruce Allen's response? Did he respond to it? Why aren't you hearing that side of it is what you're saying.
Right. I mean, the whole thing of it is just like, I think we all know like the NFL is a dirty business. But again, it comes back to that whole ranchers cattle thing. It's the ranch was rotten and everybody knows it, but there's no way there's no way the people at the league office are going to point the finger at the rancher. How
much did this catch him by surprise? Did he completely forget about these emails? Like, I mean, was it just like, I'm emailing a buddy, right? I'm going to talk shit or whatever it is. Like, I mean, whatever the shit was said, like, it can't be forgiven. It's bad. You're old enough to know not to send that stuff. You're old enough not to say it in general, not even just send it. But, what? Well, that's the thing is, did he forget about it?
If you're someone working for, that's part of the problem, right? It's like, if you're somebody like if you take what came out on Monday night, and you go back to what happened on Friday with what he said about DeMaurice Smith, like if you're somebody who's working for John Gruden now, wouldn't you look at that and say, man, he was comfortable enough to put that in an email? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, It's not a text, he put it in an email. So there's no way that's the only thing he's saying, right? And so like I don't know if like John like expected that would be the only thing that would come out. I don't know why he pushed back on Friday night and into Sunday. I'm sure he knew to some degree. I'm sure he was contacted by the league over the course of the last. I mean, this investigation has been going on since July of 2020. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure like at some point, based on what was in those emails, like I'm sure at some point the league contacted him and asked him questions about it. So like, I'm sure he knew this was floating around out there. My understanding is the Raiders did have the emails. So the Raiders did know about it. Their handling of it over the last few days is baffling to me because of that.
Yeah, I mean, when I see something like that, it makes you think about anything that you've done in work. Like that, when that stuff comes out, like me being in, so I was with the Astros for a while, but wasn't emailing people during that time when I was playing ball. Like I didn't have my own personal email, but then I've been in the work environment for 12 years now, right? 11 years.
Yeah.
It's like 12 years ago. Do I remember what I said? 10 years ago. Do I remember what I said?
No, I know it.
I don't think I said anything bad because I'm not that person, but geez,
I have like buddies who, like my college buddies, like I look at like our text strings and I'm like, it's almost like, and it's when you're that age, like I shudder to think of like when I was a teenager, like when you're a teenager, you're in your 20s. It's almost like a competition who could say the most outrageous shit.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
And it's on text strings with multiple people all the time, right? Like, I mean, there's text strings on my phone that go back probably to 15 years. Which is crazy to think.
So you're asking, is there a statute of limitations on stuff and taken out of context? Because, no, it's a fair point because like some things are acceptable like 15, 20 years ago to say. They're not acceptable now. I get that. The things change, but how can you hold somebody accountable for something 15 years ago was okay?
You see like on TikTok or anything, it's like, hey, would this scene in The Office... Could you play this now? Would this scene in Family Guy? Could you play this now? And it's like, no.
Look, I'm not even. A lot of them. I'm not saying like Gruden was right to say that 11 years ago. He wasn't. But some things that people get canceled for now or get fired for now
then might not have been
maybe
right.
then I think as bad.
Yeah, I mean the context of it, like, I mean, shoot, like. Dan, me and you were about the same age. Like the stuff that was okay when we were in high school is not. I mean, I had this conversation with my high school coach. When he I went to a game, and this is probably like right around like when I was 20 years out of high school, something like that. And we were hanging out with him. Like, a few of us were hanging out with him after the game. He just won his 300th game, and he said to us, like, he was like, the shit I used to say to you guys, like, I couldn't touch that now.
No,
like,
that's right.
I couldn't come close to saying that's the stuff that I used to say to you guys now. And it's just, it's the reality of it. But I think it's important context too. Like you're saying, Cope, like I don't, there's stuff that was okay back then that's not okay now. And I think we all understand it. And I think that can be, that can be important context for like comparing like something someone said in say 2005, like, well, if he said that now, it would be much worse. Right. But we have to take into context the period of time in which he's saying it too. It's not the same thing.
Right.
Well, regardless,
it's coach's corner is over.
It's not a good thing for him.
Hey, why do all the kickers miss all the kicks this weekend? What was going on?
I have an interesting theory on this that I've heard from some special teams coaches. And I just think that this is kind of something to keep an eye on going forward. What a couple of them has said to me over the last couple of years is that when they moved the extra point back, that really messed with the kickers because kickers used to use the extra point to sort of work on their stroke. It was almost like being at the driving range for them. You know what I mean? Like they would get out there and it's like, if something was funny or didn't feel quite right, like in a game setting, they felt like they could work it out in a live situation when they were kicking extra points. And taking that away has sort of messed with the equilibrium of kickers. And I know, Cope, you're probably sitting there and thinking about how soft that might sound. Or whatever,
no, not at all, Bert. Not at all. Not at all.
But it is. But I do think for a kicker, it's sort of similar to being like a golfer, right? Like where a golfer, like a little something can be off and it can throw you off completely, right? And that's why like you watch like Mason Crosby on Sunday. I thought that was like pretty amazing. Like he missed field goals on 3 straight possessions and was able to kind of gather himself and get it together and nail a 49-yarder, which isn't a short field goal, to win the game. And I had him on the phone afterwards, and I remember saying to him, I'm like, God, like, I just think of myself on the golf course. And it's like, if I have 3 or 4 bad holes in a row, I'm like, that 5th hole is going to be awful. I mean, I'm going to be putting it in the woods. I'm going to be like taking 3 swings to get it out of the brush. It's going to be ugly. And it's like that ability to compartmentalize bad shots, So I think like if you mess with the mind of a kicker a little bit, it can throw everything off. And so I do think like that the extra point, like the change in the extra point has actually had an effect on the way kickers do their jobs.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. And kickers are people too. Kickers are football players, and I understand that reference that you gave with golf because I think it's all mental. And a lot of those guys are head cases in that locker room, and if they get on a bad streak, you don't even want to talk to them.
Right? Isn't it like you have like hockey goalies are the same way. Oh, maybe like closers in baseball are the same way.
Or
it's
pitchers.
Like that.
Just let them do their own thing. It's such a mental thing to do. Repetition and just feeling that motion that they're doing, that swing.
Right. It was wild there. Was so many missed kicks. And I get nervous now when there's a touchdown and there's supposed to be an extra point. I'm like, this isn't tied up yet, right?
Yeah.
In those situations.
It's no longer 99%.
That's right. What is the percentage now? Do we know the percentage now?
I don't have it in front of me. I wish I had it for you.
I bet it's down quite a bit.
Close to what it was.
80%? Let's go 80%.
I believe it was like, well, Belichick was one of the leaders on this. Like he wanted to make it a more competitive play. And he thought that it wasn't a competitive, now it's very much a competitive play.
Mm-hmm. Bert, are we buying Cardinals Bills Super Bowl?
I'm buying the Bills. I just think that there's a good group of guys in that locker room. And, I think in a lot of ways they're able to do now what you guys were able to do in New England, in that they can bring in guys that might have had issues other places or weren't perfect other places and turn them into one of them. And I think Stephon Diggs is the best example of it. He's a captain. Mm-hmm. He had 2 catches the other night. You know what he was doing at the end of the game? It's like waving his towel and cheering the defense on, mm-hmm. And I just see like a really good culture in place there. They've got so many guys that should still ascend, right? Like young players, and Josh Allen's one of them, but that's the tip of the iceberg. Like Diggs, Deion Dawkins, Dawson Knox, on the other side of the ball, Ed Oliver, Tremaine Edmonds, Tre'Davious White, like all of these guys who should just continue to get better. I love where the Bills are, and I think that they're going to be a force for some time to come. And I think Josh Allen's, locked in as a top 5 quarterback for the foreseeable future. The Cardinals, I'm interested to see what happens with them because I think Cliff's done a really good job in that. Like one of the things that they wanted to do, they wanted to get better in critical situations and they want to mature. They wanted to get more mature in the offseason. And that was one of the reasons why they went and they got J.J. Watt and A.J. Green and Rodney Hudson and these guys who are good, solid pros. And I think you've seen them do that over the course of the early parts of the season. I wonder how the older guys hold up over time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like I wonder how some of the older guys that are playing critical roles for them are going to hold up over time. Quarterback's incredible.
Yeah.
I think the coaches on both sides of the ball have done a really nice job. But they play in probably the most difficult division in the league. And having to see the Rams and the Niners and the Seahawks, and maybe the Seahawks less so now without Russell. But it's just to me, it's going to be interesting to see, where your older guys, where your JJs and your AJs and your Rodney Hudson, guys who've had injury problems in the past, how those guys are going to hold up when we get to, say December and January.
Let me ask you this. I came in with Cliff in 2003, know him really well, great guy, good coach. And you see, but when you go to coach in college, it's one thing. And then
awesome
you go to
the bar.
What's that? Oh, he's
awesome at the bar. Superstar at the bar.
Oh, he's a superstar. He's a good-looking dude. He's single.
Looks
still.
like Ryan Gosling.
He really does look like Ryan Gosling. He's doing those photos in front of the fire pit
hair's
during the draft
perfect.
And shit. And just
hair's
Cliff,
perfect.
Get over yourself. Yeah, white.
Probably his abs.
Down.
Does he have abs? Probably his abs.
He's got abs now.
I'm like us.
But you've seen these transitions. Urban Meyer's a good example right now. It's not necessarily transitioning, not working out in the NFL so far. Saban, it didn't work out. How is Cliff doing it with the offense that he played in and then what he did at Texas A&M and at Texas Tech? It's a completely different system. Is it just having that quarterback to be able to do it? He's got his receiver. His receivers are insane too.
The quarterback, the receivers, that's all part of it. I think there are 3 other things that I would look at, right? Number one, it's like having an organization that's all in on you. Right. And I do think the Cardinals have been all in on him. And so they're getting him the players to make what he does work. I think that's important. Number 2, I actually think his failure helps guys. Like, I think the fact that, like, he fell on his face that's maybe a little strong, but he didn't succeed at his alma mater, right? Like, it's going to be a little easier for Cliff Kingsbury to do self-reflection going into the NFL than it was for, say, Urban Meyer or Nick Saban, right? Like, where if you're Urban Meyer, you're Nick Saban, and everything you've been doing works, like, how much motivation are you going to have to question what you were doing? How much motivation are you going to have to change your ways? Cliff, like, had that. Like, when he comes out of Texas Tech, he got fired at his alma mater. Like, there was going to be some self-reflection there. And there was definitely going to be I can't just roll out the plan I had at Texas Tech and expect for it to work in the NFL. So that's number 2. And then number 3, I think just the fact that he was at Texas Tech, like, helps, because, you're in a situation, it's sort of like Matt Rule coming from Baylor, where you're going up against teams that have the advantage on you rather than the other way around. And so at Texas Tech, he had to find ways to try and keep up with Texas and Oklahoma, right? Like, it wasn't just, well, let's just go recruit everybody under the sun and we're going to wind up with better players than everybody else. Yeah. So I do think that is part of it as well. So those 3 things I think would be the things that I would look at with Cliff. I also think playing in the NFL helps. Like, I think the fact that he was a player, I think that there's definitely some benefit there, and that, like, he probably had better perspective than some guys do coming out of college of the differences between the pro and college games.
Imagine being like Kyler Murray too. He could be playing center field for the A's or this, right? And I actually thought that was a bad decision because baseball guaranteed money, that high of a draft pick. Like, you're going to get there probably quicker. And then all of a sudden now he's just he's so fast out there. But he'd be in the MLB by now too. Like, probably, it wouldn't have taken him that long, and he probably would have signed a deal. It's just crazy. Like, somebody can be that talented. Blows my mind away sometimes. Yeah,
I mean, like, I think he was the first ever to be a top 10 pick in 2 sports.
Two sports,
is incredible.
It's unreal.
I actually, and he's so unique. Like, it was interesting. I had I'd been, like, kind of searching for, like, who does he look like? Like, because he has such a unique running style, right? And then it hit me that, like, he looks like the Roadrunner. And doesn't he, like, like, his upper body doesn't move, but his, like, lower body's going like that, right? Like, so it's just like the Roadrunner. And so I mentioned that to somebody in the press box when I was at the Patriots-Bucks game, and I had the revelation. I did not know the Roadrunner was actually a real animal. I thought it was just a cartoon character. Did you guys know that?
No, I did not know that.
I actually think I did. Did you? I might, like, you may say I'm bullshitting you right now, but I'm pretty sure I knew that was an actual animal.
Good. I was going to say.
I did not know it was an actual animal.
I was going to say he looks like the guy in, like, NCAA football 2002, 2004, where you could 99 speed, 99 agility, put the spats on him and, like, make him 5'6" and let him run around. That is what he looks like out there. He flies through. I mean, nobody can touch him. It's incredible. So when you make the dynasty, you take like University of Maine and you turn them into a dynasty with that athlete.
That's not going to happen, Tim.
No, but that's what you did in the game. That's what you did in NCAA 2004.
Oh no! I mean, I was an expert at giving all those guys swag. You put a single digit on, your rush end
shade.
You get the
eye shade on,
the visor.
You were ahead of your time. Collar. You were ahead of your time putting the single digits on people now.
One more quarterback thing for me. How good is Lamar Jackson? Is he, like, this good? I mean, you were firing tweets out about him. But, like, he looks so good, and, like, you don't think about him ever, it feels like. And here he goes. He comes back last night. He's got great stats.
I mean, like, I think you got to give him credit for the amount of work that he put into becoming better as a passer, because he wasn't this coming out of Louisville. And I think a big piece of that was, it's sort of like what we talk about. We just talked about with Cliff, where when something works for you, maybe you don't develop something else, right? Like, because he was able to out athlete everybody in high school and college, he wasn't as developed as a passer. Didn't mean he couldn't do it. Just wasn't as developed as some other quarterbacks were, because he could dominate a different way. And I think you got to give him a ton of credit, because the guy worked his ass off at becoming a better passer. And, it was interesting because when I talked to him over the summer about it, he mentioned the work that he was doing with Tom House and everything else. And he said he really looked at, like, the way he was being defended. And it was obvious to him, like, okay, like, people don't think I can throw with accuracy outside the numbers, and so they're going to force me they're going to force me to stay in the pocket. They're going to force me to throw outside the numbers. So I have to be able to make them pay for that. I have to be able to make them pay down the field and outside the numbers. And he worked and worked and worked at it. And I think what you saw last night in that game against the Colts was like he is able to do things as a passer now that he wasn't able to do anymore. And people can't defend him the same way as they could 2 years ago. And remember, he won the MVP 2 years ago.
Right.
So, I mean, I think it's just a great credit to him. And, it's awesome too. Cause like the people you talk to have been around him, whether it's Harbaugh, his staff, the other players. I mean, he's just the most humble kid. And like, you get the feeling like he just genuinely loves playing football and is only interested in getting better at it.
Right.
And, what we saw last night, I think is a great tribute to his commitment to getting better.
I think, as analysts or whatever you want to call them or writers, hey, they got to find something to write about. And it's like, okay, that's an easy one to do. And we can write about it until he changes it. The thing was, like, quarterbacks, like a bunch of quarterbacks over the years have changed and improved regardless. But look at how old this kid was. This kid was how young? 21, 22 when he came in. He's a young kid still developing. So, for him to get that young, he could be as good as he wants to be.
Right. And I think it's like part of it's like just what football is, like it's, I mean, look, like, he played for Bobby Petrino at Louisville. Bobby Petrino at Louisville, his job is to develop Lamar Jackson, but his first job is to win games. So how's he going to play him? Yeah. You know what I mean? He's going to play him in a way that's going to help Louisville win games. And the best way at that point at that level to win with Lamar Jackson was to just unleash his superpowers on everybody else. And to some degree that made it so I think like, some of the development as a passer didn't happen the same way as it would maybe with another quarterback who's dropping back and throwing it from the pocket 400 times a year. And, it's a credit to Lamar again, like that he was, he's able to kind of identify, okay, like this is how they're getting me now. And I can't play the same way I always have. And I can't just lean back on my instincts to do things the way I always have done them. I've got to develop other parts of my game. And he's absolutely positively done that.
Out of all these guys, 10 years, you got to put a quarterback on the field. Like all these young guys, next 10 years,
Mahomes,
who's the one you select?
Jackson.
There's good ones.
I think it's still Mahomes.
Yeah.
I think it's like in the league's in great shape if you look at it. Like I think Burrow, like in addition to the guys you mentioned, Burrow. Like Allen, Mahomes, Murray, Herbert. Like I think Trevor Lawrence is in that category. I think Joe Burrow is one not enough people are paying attention to, but if you watch him and then you talk to the people who are playing against him, they'll say like I had somebody from the Packers say to me like that dude's a G coming out of the game on Sunday. And so like I think that the league's in really good shape as far as like the crop of young quarterbacks that are there now. Trevor Lawrence I think is in that group too. If I had to take one, it'd still be Mahomes. And I think, you have to consider Lawrence just based on where he was coming out of college versus, prospects over the last 30 or 40 years. But the one guy who's maybe sort of think about that, like, okay, versus Patrick Mahomes versus Trevor Lawrence is absolutely Justin Herbert. He looks like an absolute monster. Like some of the stuff that he's doing.
Absolute cannon on him. Cannon.
I mean, he's one of these guys where you look at him and it's like, all right, like what is it that he can't do? You know what I mean?
He grows hair really fast, by the way.
Yeah, he does grow hair.
They shaved his head last year, and he's got a full flux going on right now.
Dude, that haircut last year was kind of unfortunate. There's something I won't say in here, like that. There's a comment I made I couldn't make last year that I wouldn't say here that I'll text you later.
We won't leak it. Don't worry about it.
I'd like to see him throw a baseball. Yeah. I'd like to see Herbert like just actually get on the mound and like throw a baseball. I bet he has extreme.
Well,
velocity.
What do you look for though? What is that? Just because he's got long levers and?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it translates. It doesn't translate that well actually, but. Sometimes it's just this arm strength where his release and the way the ball gets on receivers is so fast. Like the ball, I mean, these guys, it's got to hurt to catch a ball coming from him. Especially, I saw him step up in the pocket, I think 2 weekends ago, and like almost kind of check down a ball to somebody like 8 yards.
Too close.
And I was like, how is that? It wasn't a catch, but I was like, who would catch that? Nobody would. I mean, he just threw a football.
Because I remember talking to somebody about, like, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Merlone. I was talking to somebody about having to face Randy Johnson and how, because he was so tall, because he's 6'10" or whatever, right? And like had long arms. Like, it felt like by the time the ball was coming at you, it felt like he was like 3 feet away.
Yeah, it's on top of you.
Right. Yeah.
Like he was like, and so I guess like Herbert would sort of be that way because he's tall, but he's also got like the long arms and the stride where it would look like maybe like he's right in your face when the ball's coming, you know?
Yeah, he can just sling it. I love watching him throw the ball. He's maybe my favorite, other than if next 10 years, player, I still might take Brady next 10 years.
That team's fun too, because if you look at the receivers, it's like a basketball team, right?
Yep.
Like the receivers, like between Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Jared Cook's there now, like all those guys are like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". It's tough to deal with.
Mm-hmm. With everything that you know and what you have to do and all you have to write, you just have a favorite player that you would just sit down and watch and not think about what's the next story.
Guys that I like to watch, I mean, Lamar's up there. That was so much fun watching that last night. I think like they're the quarterbacks, of course. Like I think all the young guys are really fun to watch. Allen, Herbert, Mahomes, Murray, Lamar. All those guys are a lot of fun to watch. I'd say, I've got such an appreciation for the corners, and I don't know why, but I have such an appreciation for that skill and the ability to do that. And so, like a Jalen Ramsey, I loved watching Revis back in the day. Yeah. I mean, I just thought what he did was superhuman, the way he could just shut guys down. And I know it didn't last that long, but watching a Revis, watching a Gilmore, watching a Jalen Ramsey now, I love watching those guys. And then I think it's like the freakish tight end, just because it's like, to me, like that's like it seems like that's harder to find. Like they're like, and I love watching great receivers is fun too. Like watching your Hopkins, your Odell, like those guys is fun too. But I just feel like the overwhelming tight end, it's just for one reason or another, I don't know why, it just feels like it's harder to find those guys. So like Gronk and Kittle and Kelsey, like there just aren't as many of them, right. And so like those guys I think are really fun to watch.
Those guys,
and then if you want to go back in the day, I'll give
I guess
I'll give you Belichick's favorite player too. Ed Reed was incredible back in the day.
He was just
I remember. So like, if you know where like he was playing for the Ravens when I was covering the Patriots way back. And Cope, I'm sure you've been in the Patriots press box. Like it's in that corner of the end zone, right? And so like from that perspective, you could really kind of like, I used to love watching him because you could really get like kind of an idea of watching from there just how much ground that dude was covering. You know what I mean? Like
it was amazing. That was the one team where you just mentioned guys. There's only like Bill will give you a few keys throughout the week of what you do. And if you hit those keys 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, you usually won the game. Well, Baltimore's defense keys were Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, and like Haloti Ngata or something like that. It's like you've got to take care of these guys at all different levels. And I've never seen Brady, every time that we played him, come off the field, whoever the backup was, like, tell me where Ed Reed was at the start of the play, and then tell me where he ended up at the end of the play. Because you're right, he was so fast and so good at reading and anticipating everything, where he might be one place, but you've got to be, when you let the ball go, you got to be ready where he's going to be when you let it go.
It was like he had the play call.
It was amazing. He was such a smart, dynamic. It was
literally like he had the play call. Like,
he was that good. You're absolutely correct.
When you're watching a game, I was going to ask you this. I'll ask you both. When you're watching a game, I watch the quarterback, right? When the ball snaps, like is there anybody that watches a different position? You know what I mean? Do you watch like a receiver? Do you watch a certain tight end? Like, because I'm just watching the ball, right?
So
the ball.
I think it's like, for me, and Cope, I'd be interested to hear how you answer this question. But for me, like, it's like normally, like if there's somebody who's just outrageous, I'll watch it. Like and I'll take it to my own monitor. Like when Chase Young was a junior at Ohio State, it was like every defensive snap I was watching him. Like, it was incredible what he was doing, you know? And so I think when you get guys like that, like the guys I mentioned, like Revis, but I think it takes, like, for me at least, it takes like a special player being on the field for me to take my eye off the ball.
Yeah. I go snap the ball, but then I'm always looking at the line, I guess, just because I played it.
Yeah. synchronized.
For that,
you like the synchronization
no, because
of the line.
especially like I don't. I mean, I watch a lot of Pats games now, so I don't watch everybody else, but the calls are still the same. So I know what they're doing before the play snapped, just based on what calls they're doing, because they put the microphones on the center. I don't know how many years ago. It was such a bullshit move. But quarterback, I mean, it's
you can actually hear. I only hear the quarterback's
It's
voice.
a competitive disadvantage because you're watching the live version. They wouldn't watch that before, but now Tommy and Peyton would always watch the live version just so they can hear calls now. Mm-hmm. So if I hear the call, I know what's coming up, and now I'm like, okay, who's going to mess up here? What happened? So,
okay, all right,
that's what I do.
Yeah, I mean, I just watch the ball. That's all I know how to do.
That's good. So you should just keep watching the ball.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
Watch the ball.
Watch the ball.
Watch
and then
the ball and
opening,
hope with your heart.
The opening lines and the over-unders.
Well, Bert, what is your favorite Gatorade color of all time?
Oh, I sort of like the so when I was younger, I used to like the light blue, the whatever Glacier Freeze, I think it was.
Yeah,
right?
that's not an original though.
I'd say more. Well, yeah, I mean, I think everybody growing up drank the red, right?
Yes,
I drank the fruit punch.
Absolutely,
that's the classic. Then the Glacier Freeze came out. I sort of like that. That was really, really good for hangovers. I do remember that the Glacier Freeze, and then more recently, because I can't I'll feel like I weigh 300 pounds. Like if I eat or drink the wrong thing, now I go with the G2 purple.
Less sugar.
So,
the
sugar is good on the golf course.
There's less sugar in it.
It is good on the golf course.
Gatorade, I'll go with the G2 purple now.
Look at you. You're health conscious now. Good job. As you get older, Bert, you got to watch that. But hey, thanks for coming on with us. I appreciate it. Sharing your knowledge and the insider of what you know.
How do we follow? How do we follow you? How does everybody follow you? Because I mean, you don't need any more followers. You got a heavy number there.
Yeah,
you
can get me. Well, my Instagram. If anybody wants to follow me on Instagram, that'd be helpful because Instagram's a little tougher. That's @Albert_Breer, and then it's @AlbertBreer on Twitter. So anybody can follow me there, and then of course. SI, NBC Sports Boston, 98.5 in Boston, Cowherd, Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen. There's a lot of places to find me.
Are Tuesdays your favorite day? Because Monday morning quarterback's done and you get sort of a little breather.
Yeah. So Tuesday I still have to say, I mean, there's no breather during the season really, but I'd say my breather actually is probably during the season a little more so Friday and Saturday. It's it's a little quieter. And Saturday I'm doing some prep work and everything else, but I would say Friday and Saturday sort of, I would say a little calmer for me than earlier in the week. But now I got now my kid's playing freaking hockey. And buddy, welcome. 5 games this weekend. It's so much fun.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, we had New Hampshire games this year in New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut. He's 6. He's 6 years old.
Who's he playing for?
The same team?
Who's he playing for?
The Bay State Breakers.
Oh boy. It just started.
Pretty sure it's a Squad Locker customer.
They should be.
That's right. Good.
It's a lot of money and it's a lot of time for the parents, but he loves it. So as long as he loves it, as long as he likes it, we'll keep going with it.
Yeah, it's a good sport, man. It's tough though. It is definitely tough on the parents. I've been to New Hampshire. No, I went to Maine last weekend. New Hampshire 2 weekends ago. Maine last weekend. New Hampshire, Vermont this weekend.
You went to Vermont? Okay,
we're going to Vermont on Friday for doubleheader on Saturday. It never ends. But hopefully the long travel's winding down.
You guys need a home game.
Yeah. How old's yours?
No, we've only had one. He's 12. So he's a second year Pee Wee, which apparently from what I've been told, next year is a bantam when they're starting to be able to check. That's that's the year.
When they decide if they're going to continue or not.
Yeah, if they can handle the checking, if they can give it or take it.
Yeah.
But it's fun. I mean, it is a great sport to go watch. Just stay off the referees. They all suck, so you might as well just move on.
Oh, were you yelling?
I don't yell. I do not yell at referees
What do you
anymore.
give? The hand up
I
thing?
know we have a I will say this, I know we have a ref shortage here because I think things have gotten
did you see that article? That article is a crazy one.
Things have gotten pretty heated between the parents. I think I saw some video of a fist fight, like the dad literally went out on the ice and was throwing down with the ref.
They're down massive numbers.
Yeah. I mean, hockey parents, that's the other thing. Hockey parents are definitely, I would say, of the sports my kids have been, we've gotten, our two boys in lacrosse, soccer, flag football, letting them try everything. And hockey parents are definitely the most intense. There's no close second for that one.
No close second. And I mean, I get it. It's the one sport. It's like you drop your kid off, they go to practice, and then you pick them up. Like hockey, it just seems like people stay. They watch practice. They think they're just as invested as their kid is, which isn't true. But it's just like they go nuts. So yeah, it will get more crazy as he gets older. There's no doubt about that. But
yep,
good luck on the hockey parenting, and thanks for joining us, buddy.
All right, thanks guys. Anytime you need to let me know.
All right, later.
See you.
Past Our Prime is brought to you by Squad Locker. Squad Locker is your one-stop shop for custom team apparel, delivered right to your front door. Learn more by visiting squadlocker.com.